found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. On today's episode, we'll be breaking down and previewing the Bulls versus Celtics going down tonight. We'll also talk about Zach's comments on Billy Donovan and kind of the fallout for that and what that could mean for the player, the coach, and the team. We'll get into all that and more right after this.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central. Pat, we got a game coming up. This team, the bleeding has not stopped quite yet. We got Boston coming in town. One of the best offenses, not just of this season, but in NBA history statistically so far. What are you looking forward to in this game? Are you afraid? Do you think the Bulls can stop the bleeding tonight?
I think that's going to be based on the heart this Bulls team has shown. And kind of, are they going to be able to recenter themselves and find the team that has competed with Boston really well twice this season? We haven't seen either one of these games really be an out-of-body game. The Bulls match up really well versus Boston. The last game where we fell short, we didn't have Andre Drummond in. In this game, we would have Andre Drummond. We have the size advantage on this team. It's the one weakness that the Boston Celtics actually have. Oh, my bad. I thought it was a spider just falling down next to me, bro. I was like, what the? But listen, you should see something falling from the ceiling, bro. You're not going to stop and just take a second. You just going to let it happen? That's why I live and you die. But no, I think at the end of the day, right, like it depends on what kind of heart and what kind of fight this team comes out with. Last few games, right, the Bulls haven't shown us the defensive intensity we'd like to see. The Bulls haven't, I think, a little bit more. In the Orlando game, we kind of saw the Bulls defensively get themselves back in order. Like, Orlando didn't just come out and blow us out of the water scoring the basketball-wise, but there were some things that definitely could have been improved upon. And I think that, right, like, the Bulls can compete with the Celtics. We've seen this, but it's about, are you going to be able to come out and withstand what the Celtics are going to be able to throw at you with, which is right now the best offensive team in the NBA, whether it's history or not. This season, 120 offensive rating that they're bringing to the table right now. But I'll say this, right? They are a team that can get scored on as well, especially down low. So I would hope that tonight we see a game plan that involves Vooch heavily, involves a lot of pick and roll with Drummond, different things like that to mix it up, and hopefully Zach LaVine knocking down some shots.
I mean, that's really what it boils down to with this, is that we know this team has the talent to really beat anyone. We've matched up well with Boston before, and it's like, to your point, especially as long as they're missing Robert Williams, that's always going to be a team that's fairly small up front outside of Al Horford. So there are some things that can bode well for the Bulls in this one, but it really just boils down to their own effort. Do they use what's gone on over the past weekend as motivation? They haven't performed very well at home all this season yet, and like, the home fans deserve something. We opened up the season at home with a blowout loss against Cleveland. Can we just the Bulls fan deserves a little bit more, but it really comes down to these players, the coaches. How much better do they execute? Are they better prepared now? Things like that. And most of the Bulls' problems, as we've said before, really just the turnovers. It's just little execution things that should be under their control. If we can see them get back to kind of focusing on executing, I think this team can definitely match wits with anybody, including Boston.
Yeah, and I think the thing to look at, right, Boston only has 3 losses on the season. They're 13-3 right now. They've been cooking this entire season. The 3 losses are to Cleveland twice and to us once. What do those 3 teams have in common? We've got better games down low than Boston does, and it's where we've been able to take advantage. And on the other side, right, being able to match up defensively, playing up strong, right, like, there's just, at the end of the day, this just comes down to heart. Of course, being able to make shots is going to be a huge key, right? Like, the Bulls, I will say, right, the Bulls have continued to struggle to make shots, even in that game where I thought that there was a really good moment where the Bulls were really clamping down on Boston. I think that was the point where we had like a 4-minute scoring drought, though. You know, like it was like I'm sorry, not Boston, Orlando. That's when we had like a 4-minute scoring drought. Like they weren't scoring that much. We were doing a good job keeping them under wraps, but we couldn't put the ball in the bucket either. We have to figure out what's going on with this offense, how we can get this offense set up. It just looks clunky at times. It looks like guys aren't moving around well. It looks like guys aren't going to the hot hand. And maybe, right, like, and we'll talk about the Zach LaVine, Billy Donovan situation with the benching and all that more. Maybe, right, like we're going to see a little bit more of that. I felt like we saw that early in the season, but maybe we're going to see a little bit more of that now because when DeMar started to heat up, we started going to the hot hand. When Ayo started heating up in that second half, we went to Ayo. When Javonte started to get involved in the game, we went to Javonte, right? And you had to sit the guy that was 1 for 14 at that point. So maybe Billy Donovan's making a little bit of a change and he's saying, listen, at the end of the day, we've got to start coming away with some of these wins. I still believe, right, like that the beginning of the season doesn't matter that much, but you also can't, right, like it doesn't matter if you go towards the All-Star break like at 500. Yeah. It matters a lot if you're like 7 games under 500 going into the All-Star break. So you have to still come out here and try to get some of these wins. So I think this is going to be an interesting game. I don't expect a blowout, surprisingly, right? Like we've gone against 2 teams here in Denver and in New Orleans that really put it on us, and we had no way to fight back. Like it just looked like the Bulls had no heart. I actually don't expect a blowout in this game. I don't know if I expect a win. I think that you know, like we like to think of like the bounce back story. And I think that this could be a very defining moment for the Bulls going into very early in the season. But I do expect the Bulls to be competitive against Boston, if for no other reason, right, that Vooch should absolutely just be able to cook everybody down low.
I mean, and Vooch has been way better taking advantage of the mismatch down there and calling for it.
Yeah.
But they also have to look for it.
They've missed it
so much on the
they
last
had
couple
Suggs
of games.
on that man, and he was just like, I can't get it with him.
Yeah, so
he's Haize height. Like why can't I get the ball? Like he knows you. He knows you personally. Vooch knows you. I said if Vooch knows you, though, I mean, like, it's a win-win situation.
No, it's come on, Ice Spice, get it together, bro. Get it together. But I threw me off my point, brother. No, but at the end of the day, it's this. When we talk about the team taking advantage of things, they also they have to be better at recognizing Vooch. They have to be better at recognizing just a few things with the offense when people can cut, things like that. But the thing that I want to see in this game, and hopefully the Bulls kind of start working this in, is move the ball, bro. Like everybody get involved. Everybody get involved.
I'll do you one better. Move yourself.
Yeah, that's another thing.
How many times? I think that's the biggest concern, and I think it's really the reason why this Bulls team continues to just like have these offensive droughts. When you see it, bro, like, and listen, I'm not sparing nobody in this. Zach, DeMar, Patrick Williams, everybody. Like the one person I see move is Vooch. Because Vooch sets a screen, goes down to the post, tries to set himself up, nothing comes down. He'll rotate back up to the 3-point line, try to reset. You know what I mean? But like nobody, like I spent calling the game, live calling it. I spent like 2 minutes just watching P. Will. He came up and in a game he played well, but he would come up on the offensive end. He would just stand on the wing and wait. And then the ball would miss, and then he'd run down to the other end and go play defense. It's like that's not going to get you going. And to me, right, that's a part where I'm looking at Billy Donovan. I'm saying you're not doing enough. You're not engaging them enough. You're not putting enough of an offensive system in place because clearly the system is you cook and everybody else be ready.
Yeah.
And that's not a system that's going to me, breed success for an entire season. It's fine in moments, but for a season, though.
Yeah, it's not, and especially like once you get towards playoff series or coaches that are very good strategists, it's just not going to work. And that's why, and it creates so much easy baskets for as much size as we lack. You think we'd want to move without the ball more often to create that separation in that space, but you know we're just 2 guys pontificating on the show.
I mean, I don't know. I yelled at Zach LaVine last time, so I'm just chilling today.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. There you go. And so next up, we're going to be talking about some of Zach LaVine's comments after last game. And since Pat talked about chill, there's nothing else that can help you chill more than BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Unfortunately, life doesn't come at you with a user manual. So when it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. Navigating any life's challenges can make you feel unsure, whether it's a career change, a new relationship, or becoming a parent. Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient and accessible anywhere, 100% online. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online, plus it's affordable. Just fill out the brief questionnaire to match with the therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
We want to thank you guys for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day. You know how to have to read up. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes, local experts and insight only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. That's the one I'd be forgetting. I ain't gonna lie to you, because I pull the regular ad read up, and that's the one that I'd be like, oh wait, that's me.
Oh man! So one of the things sticking in over the course of this weekend is just giving Bulls Nation something to talk about was Zach LaVine's comments after the game that even fired you up. Since things have come out, Billy Donovan's been asked about it, and everything's been kind of said that Zach kind of, not that he necessarily understands, but Billy Donovan did explain his reasons for not having Zach out there. Pat, we've had a weekend to think about it. How do you feel about this topic, especially with the new things that have come out about it?
You know what? Here's the thing, right? The part for me that I guess I kind of get, but also makes me kind of look at Billy Donovan even more, is where Zach says, you know, I've earned the right to be out there. I've deserved the right to be out there in those moments. And not to say, right, Zach LaVine hasn't put up 15 in the quarter. Not to say he can't go out and score that game. Not to say he couldn't have helped us win in that game offensively, right? But the question that I have for Zach is not, do you deserve to be out there in those moments because of what you've done in the past, but what were you doing in the game that got you sat down, right? And I think that that's the part, right? Like, if you're doing something outside of, and we've talked about this with a lot of players, if you're doing something outside of just what we know you for, you're useful. Kobe White this season, we thought in the beginning of the season, right, he had changed his game up because he was playing better defensively. He was doing a lot more, even though he wasn't scoring the ball efficiently. And then that went away. And it's like, well, now you're not useful again, right? Like, if you're giving me nothing while you're out there, I can't use you. I can't go to you. I can't, there's no reason for you to be on the court. I've said that sometimes with Alex Caruso, but they keep throwing him out there a lot. But for me, right, like, I think Billy Donovan really set the tone for this team that, hey, I get that you guys want to be out there. I get that you guys think that you deserve to be out there. But at the end of the day, this is about winning. Are you helping winning? I understand that you don't help winning as much if you're on the bench, but are you helping winning? And I think the route to go on it isn't the, I'm gonna try and throw my coach under the bus in the media. And maybe he wasn't intending it for it to be that way, but that's how it came off to a lot of people listening to it, right? That, hey, Billy Donovan, that's his decision. He's got to lay with it. And now I'm looking at the situation. I'm sure they've moved past it. I'm sure they've talked about it. I'm sure they don't have issues with it anymore. But for me right now, I'm looking at this as, okay, is this a defining moment for this team? Is this a moment where Zach LaVine's going to realize, hey, this contract at the end of the day, yes, it matters to the family. It matters to me personally, but it don't matter to this team, and it don't matter to me being on the court. I gotta get my play up together, and I gotta be the guy that people can look to in these moments. I want to see. For me, it's about how do you respond to it. Whether you hate Billy after this or not, or you don't want him, how are you going to respond to they didn't want you to be on the court? And I remember how he responded with Boylan.
Yeah.
Came out cooking over like the next 5-10 games when Boylan did something very similar. But I don't want that to be the reason why you're cooking. Like, I want that to be something that's sustainable, and I think it is with Zach. But I don't know. I just look at it as this is a really important moment in this season for the Chicago Bulls, and we're 16 games in.
I think, well, I agree. I think that to be a coach, it's part being a motivator, right? You have to find the different things that motivate people. And while I'm not sitting here saying Billy Donovan had this master plan of, I'm going to do this to motivate Zach, I'm saying if Zach is the player that we want him, or heck, that we need him to be if we want to have success, if he is, if he really is that, he's gonna take it. He may be upset about it, but he's gonna try to prove it wrong. He's gonna try to come in and perform better because he knows his team needs it. I truly believe that until it's proven otherwise. So I think Zach's going to come back and hopefully it's renewed his focus. Hopefully it's lit a fire under his butt, because sometimes you need that when your season is slipping away this early on. Sometimes drastic things are needed to really get the reins back on it. And if that's the thing, the spark that now wakes Zach LaVine up to be the efficient player he showed himself to be his first few seasons in Chicago, then it was all for it. It was all worth it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And you know what? I just think it sets the standard to the rest of this team. Hey, listen, like some of y'all, we really don't have a replacement for. Like, I think Vooch is kind of safe because, like, to bench Vooch, you got to put in Drummond, and that's just basically offensive suicide. Basically, you're just saying, I'm not going to score that much. I'm going to score 10 at that position. But, right, like, hey, guys, I'm going to do what's best for this team to win. And if you're not what's best for this team to win in these moments, I'm going to go away from you, right? And I think that sets the standard of excellence on this team now, whether that breathes true, right? Whether that ends up being the truth. And we've seen DeMar be able to stay out there and shoot through some tough moments. I'll be honest with you. I've seen Zach LaVine be out there and have to shoot through some tough moments. So I think that it was right. Like, maybe this goes deeper because we've seen Zach out there on a horrible shooting night.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't like the first time we've ever seen Zach LaVine have a horrible shooting night. And we've seen him be allowed to be out there and shoot through it. I feel like this was more of a Billy Donovan kind of saying, hey, like, we need you to be the leader. We need you to be the guy. And if you're not going to be the guy, I don't need you out here. Like, I feel like it was more than just 1 for 14. I've seen Zach have a bad shooting night, and he played the whole game.
Well, I mean, he was also getting cooked defensively too. So,
and that's what goes into it, right? It's like, if on one side you're giving me absolutely nothing, and you look worse on the other side, right? Like, that's where I'm looking. And right in that situation, I get Billy Donovan on that. Because Billy knows Zach can play better defense. Zach's having one of his best defensive seasons.
mm-hmm.
And there was nobody out there that should have been able to cook him.
Yeah. Excuse me. No, you good. But yeah, it's setting the standard is important. And, you know, it has to start with Zach. Right, wrong, indifferent, anything else, it has to start with Zach. If you are going to send a message, you have to be consistent in how you want to evaluate your players. And you what do you look like, for example, sitting Javante next game if you couldn't even sit Zach when he was 1 for 14?
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's an elevation of everybody, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like the rest of the team got to be like, yo, they said 215.
How much you making? 2.5? Oh, yeah, we can see
what I mean? It's a standard of excellence literally for everybody. It's like, you sat your highest paid player in franchise history because he wasn't helping you win. Now I need to see y'all out there doing everything to help you win because your PT ain't guaranteed.
There you go.
And you don't want Muzz to live in a state of fear, but I think, right, like, the players understand kind of where it's coming from. They understand that, and for me, right, for Bulls fans that are looking at Billy Donovan and saying that he doesn't want to win or that he's done with the team or he's not engaged in the team and stuff like that, you can't watch that Magic game and say that. Like, can we look at some of his adjustments and be like, yeah, maybe that wasn't the best move or something like that? But you know that he wants to put the best 5 on the floor that are going to help him win the game. Mm-hmm. It's just usually when he's sitting somebody, right, it's P. Will or it's Io, and it's easy to nitpick them. It's not Zach LaVine. It's not DeMar DeRozan. It's not Nikola Vucevic.
Yeah.
So seeing this sets that standard. I don't know, man. I liked it. I wasn't mad at the move.
I feel you. I wasn't mad at it either. And we'll see what now setting that standard does for improving this team, especially over the stretch of the next few games. This is the last game at home tonight against Boston, and then I think we're all on the road for 6 or 7 games at that.
I thought we had 2 at home, but maybe I'm wrong.
We did. The last game was at home.
Orlando was at home, right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
But
yeah, we take our West Coast after that. Yeah,
West Coast trip after that.
Hold on. I got one too. I got one. Unless you want me to do it with the music behind it.
Go ahead.
Go with the music behind it. Hey, we want to tell you guys about Prize Picks before we get into this final topic. Hey, tonight you can be taking Zach LaVine to score more than 26.5. You can take DeMar DeRozan to have more than 7.5 rebounds. You can take Nikola Vucevic to have more than 6.5 assists. That's what you can do all on Prize Picks. How does it work? Pick 2 to 6 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Pick projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. That includes NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, everything. It's safe, it's fast, it's easy. It just can be made in less than 60 seconds. It's that easy. Currently operational in 30 states. Here's all we need you to do. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First time users can receive a 100% instant deposit. 100%. Match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, you get $100. You deposit $50, you get $50. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On and sign up for an instant deposit matched up to $100. Let's get back to the show. Pat.
So coming up this game, the Bulls have Boston. They have the long road stretch after that. What do you think this team is going to look like coming out of that West Coast trip?
You know what? I think at least here's my hope. I can't say what I think, right? Every time I say I think this is going to happen, my team gets cooked. So I think that this is an opportunity for the Bulls to go on a nice little run and make Bulls fans feel better about where they are currently right now. You got the Celtics here. You've got a lot of tough teams ahead of you. This is a time for you to not only show some of these teams that you felt like you couldn't beat last year that, hey, we're still here. We're still in this race, but also at least to make us feel good about Larry Markkinen being on the Jazz and not here. So please just beat them. That's all I ask. Like, don't get like P. Will. Don't get cooked by Larry. Hey, don't get cooked. Like Larry's been cooking. But nah, for me, man, this is all about right. How do you suck it up and turn around? Because there's been so many opportunities this season where they haven't been able to just turn it around. You know what I mean? There's been so many opportunities this season where they haven't been able to get to that next level. And I think the biggest thing, right, is that it's not just the Bulls, right? We're so centered on the Bulls that we only focus on the Bulls. The Cavs just came off a 5-game losing streak. Wow. Luka and the Mavs have lost to just about every team in the NBA without their best players on the court, right? Like, it's not just the Bulls. So I'm hoping that this is the moment where the Bulls get their heads out of their backsides, they turn it around, and we start talking about this team in a little bit more positive light. I say next, 6? When do we come back home? Kings is we on a real road trip, dog.
Yeah, we're not back home again until December 7th.
Until December 7th. Let's see. I will say I'm going to say we beat Boston.
Okay. So let me ask you this.
Didn't believe me.
Let me ask you this. Is there any way that we come, because this is a conversation in Bulls Nation, is there any way we come out of this West Coast trip with Billy Donovan truly on the hot seat?
Oh, if we lose every game, yeah. If we lose every game, yeah. No, legit.
You think that's what it would have to take?
Here's the thing. I think the Bulls would have to be so far below 500, yeah. Right? Like, I think that, right, like, you got the Celtics at home. You got Bucks, Thunder. Thunder are playing tough right now.
Yeah.
Like, that's not an easy game. Jazz, playing tough. Suns, Warriors, Kings. Like, you would literally, to me, have to go out on that West Coast trip and just look like an inept basketball team. Like, basically what we've seen. If what we see continues, I think Billy Donovan could be on the hot seat. Right? And I said I would start to worry about this Bulls team 20 to 25 games into the season. That puts us, 23 games into the season? If we go through that West Coast trip and we ain't got it together, guess what? Those are some of the teams that you're going to have to play now on the West Coast, right? You would play them only if you get to the finals. But like how are you going to look against the Bucks? How do you then come back and look against the Wizards? You know what I mean? Like those are the teams that you're going to be looking at and saying, hey, like these are the teams that are the upper echelon of the league. How do you match up against them? And that there's a lot of questions that are going to be matched up on this road trip. And you know what? That's another reason to me why Billy Donovan sat down Zach LaVine in the game he did. Because guess what? You can't sit him down versus Celtics.
Yeah.
Javonte Green ain't going to fix that.
That we know of. You never know. You know, this NBA. I've said this, I think, over on Central. I may even said this your last time, is that sometimes that road trip and going through that adversity in general is what really bonds a team together. And I'm hoping that they come out of that trip, that's looking ahead a little bit, and that we see them look more like the team that we kind of expected coming into the season. But like you said, you got to get past Boston first. This team has to execute. We find success, but I think finding success and finding a style of play, something that works for you guys, putting that chip back on this team's shoulder is going to be important over the course of this West Coast trip, because this could get ugly real fast.
The one thing that I'll say is that you don't get to the top of the mountain without being at the bottom. This season has started at the bottom. This season, I mean, it started with some hope, right? You started climbing and stuff like that. You got knocked down a couple of times. You got knocked down hard. People punched you in the mouth. How you going to get up? How you going to climb the mountain again, right? And guess what? This is the mountain. These are the teams that you got to match up. The Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics. Your next two games are versus two of the best teams in the NBA.
Yep.
How do you match up with them? You've matched up with Boston pretty well. We haven't played Milwaukee this season yet. How do you match up against the Milwaukee Bucks, a team that played you in the finals? How's your attitude going to be towards them? And I think that's the part, right, that I really want to see this Bulls team. There's not only got to be somebody that shows some fight, but there's got to be somebody that's out there that looks like they give a rat's you know what.
Yeah. Yeah, great point. Great point. And hopefully we start seeing that from this team. I came into the season saying no probably wholesale changes, but if things keep going the way they're going, anything's possible and on the table. And we'll see how the Bulls do fare tonight against Boston, how they start off and get out here on this road trip. And then ultimately, I guess we'll see who comes back home after the road trip too. So,
well, I mean, hot seat. I just mean the seat side. I don't think Billy Donovan gets fired off the road.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, no, I think there's a chance if they lose out, like you said, lose every game.
You think he gets fired on the road trip?
Bro, keep in mind, well, it's a different front office, but don't forget, this is a franchise that is cutthroat, bro. Are we going to wait till Christmas again? Are we going to do the Christmas fire again?
That is true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see AK firing. I don't see him making that drastic of a change unless you really think Billy's lost the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And listen, like as much as positive light as I was talking about the benching, it could go negative. Zach LaVine could say, hey, forget this guy. He's just he's just boiling with hair.
But definitely think that's. I mean, I don't feel like that's the case as of yet. Could it get there? Yeah, but yeah.
I don't think it's there yet either. I don't think that there's. I'm not clamoring for Chris Fleming to come in and take over. 20 games into the season after Billy Donovan coming off of his second year, getting this team to the playoffs, right? Like I think he's deserved his opportunity to try and work through some of these issues as well. But I guess that is a fact. We do fire people on Christmas quite a bit. We've fired quite a few coaches on Christmas. Like, Merry Christmas, get out.
You know what you're going to be doing in the new year? We don't either, but you're not going to be working here.
Plans for the new year. Job hunting? Huh? What? Nothing.
All right, bro. Send us off, man, before we get fired, bro.
Hey, man, appreciate y'all for tuning in for another episode, man. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. Follow me on everything at Pat The Designer. Appreciate y'all for showing love.
And you can follow me at CEO Haize, at CEO Haize. And thank you for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go and check on Locked On Sports Today, where they break down the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey apps, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For Pat The Designer, I'm Haize. This is Locked On Bulls. We out this mug. Peace, y'all.
Yeah.